Welcome to selfdiscoverymedia.com, where the orchard of wisdom shows are at your fingertips. It ignites your soul, your heart, your spirit, your mind, and your body with illumination from people who have made the journey before you. They're here now to help you on your journey, on your path of self-discovery. We are funded by you, the audience, and the people we interview. If you wish to support us, please go to selfdiscoverymedia.com and press on our Fund Action button. Anything is appreciated. We'd like you to sit back and enjoy the shows. Here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of, excuse me, I have a cold today, so I'm going to own that right up because I'm going to sound a little sniffly and you may see me sneeze off camera. So forgive the cold, but you are actually going to ignite your heart and soul today right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com with me, Sarah Droy, and my wonderful guest, John Siddique. He's written his latest book, The Spiritual Journey. It is the signposts of the spiritual journey. There's always signposts, folks. There's always something tapping you on the shoulder, trying to lead you along another way. He's actually the author of many, many books. We're going to touch on them today. But the Signposts book, you know, we need those signs along the way to help us actually wake up to this beautiful divine presence that we could be living in. And we need to know what are our obstacles that we may encounter along the way and how to generally move past them. John is one of the most popular teachers on the meditation app Insight Timer. His meditations have been downloaded over 2 million times, and he's been featured in Time Magazine, The Guardian, CNN, BBC. He's in England, and he's also teaching at the Omega end of August and has a tablet interview coming up. He also has a talk workshop on theosophy. Is that right? Society in America?
The Theosophical Society.
There we go. Sorry, called in the way. But, you know, self-reflection, the willingness to kind of go in and see life from the inside out, not the outside in. Igniting your heart and soul is what it's really all about. So let's just dive right in and get to feel all about John and his books and all his teachings, because Lord knows we need some igniting of some heart and souls right now. Welcome to the show, John.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for having me. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for those of you watching. Bless you.
Now, I don't think people really understand the importance of why living from an inside out life is really what we're here for. It's really what life's journey is all about, and why it is so utterly important to open up our hearts, because that is obviously where the wisdom comes through. You know, it ignites with the heart, it gets the spirit into action, and the mind will know what it needs to know when it needs to know it.
Fantastic.
It is such an important thing for every single one of us to take this journey. And, you know, signposts, they're always there. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, tap, tap. We don't have to wait for the cosmic 2x4, but yet we do, don't we?
We do, don't we? Just absolutely. Yeah.
What are some of the signs that we could be paying attention to?
I think, you know, it depends kind of where you're at, but the question that kind of comes to my mind, or the reason that I kind of wrote this in a way, was exactly what you say, that we need to kind of, you know, not wait until we're hit around the head with suffering, as it were, but everybody does. I think that feeling of incongruence, that's the biggest telltale of them all. You know, we have a kind of an inbuilt compass, and yet our entire training has been the outside life,
yes,
as you call it, you know, to be a somebody, you know, that fits this. In the book, I say that actually most of the time we're not being people, we're being functions of the society.
A dysfunctional society at that.
Yeah, and a dysfunctional society at that. So, but what we do, because we don't know any better, is we try to find our completion and our meaning through those outer means, or because we are not shown genuinely how, we read something, you know, or hear something of an inner life, and the mind gets hold of that. But what we have a tendency to do in our material world now is, instead of actually moving to the heart, we have an idea of what that might be like, and then we try to kind of replicate it in an outer sort of way.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
so, and you see this, you see people faking it all the time, fake spirituality, continuously in
Mm-hmm.
our faces. And yet they're so entitled behind that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much aggression and violence, actually,
Yes.
emotional and psychological sort of behind that, that you just kind of go, oh, okay, okay. And so, it's not the teacher's job to convince anybody of anything. It's just, here it is when you're ready for it, as it were.
Yes.
But boy, right now we're ready for it.
4 or 5 years ago, the universe gave me a saying, we're going to shake you up to wake you up for you to step up and change it up and grow up. Now, grow up as a society because we've been behaving like toddlers, screaming, tantrum, but also grow up vibrationally. And in this need to raise our frequency. And, love, actually, true love really resonates at a higher hertz. And we need to rise up to that hertz of love, kindness, caring of ourselves as well as of humanity. And as you said, there's so much other spirituality. And really all it's doing is mimicking religion. And look at how many religion where violence is a part of it. If you do
Absolutely.
not comply, you will be basically slaughtered, torn, and quartered, and everything else. And that's not what spirituality is about, is it? It is
No,
about
not at all.
flow,
Yeah,
the flow of energy running through you, running because of you. Everything happening to you is happening for you. And if we can't get into the rhythm and into the flow of life, we're missing the reason of life.
absolutely. Absolutely. The thing is that um I would just come at it in a slightly different direction, actually, in that I understand exactly what you're saying about raise your vibration. But the fact is that, we're not alive unless we have a soul. So we all have one.
It's got to
Uh,
ignite it.
you know, and so that vibration, if we use that kind of language, is already within us.
Yes.
It's just that we have the outer stuff, the conditioning and so on, we can suppress things to such a level that we have no idea. It's a bit like what was I reading the other day, Ramakrishna or something, and he was saying, it's a bit like somebody, uh, a person thinking that they're kind of a poor homeless person, and they have to sleep with their head on this pillow that's made out of a rock, but they don't even, but because of their ignorance, they don't realize that the rock is a diamond.
Mm,
So we're sleeping on what we have already. But again, the problem goes back to the same thing, which is all this sounds great, but we don't know how.
that's the
And
point.
so it needs a lot of love. And so, that's what Signpost partially um, hopes to kind of remedy in a way. Not that it has the answers.
Right.
Somebody said to me a while ago in a they were being very cheeky with me, because people are, when they find you've written this kind of book,
Mm-hmm.
they can be quite naughty with you. So they said to me, "So you've got the answers, have you?" And I said, "Well, maybe not, but I might have some other questions."
That is the point,
You
isn't it?
know, it is the point, and so
The
and it's the
answers are
questions.
already there, but if you don't have
The
the
answers are
question, you
there,
don't
but
know the answer's there. Yeah.
exactly, and so that allowing of ourselves to say, "I don't know,"
Mm,
to be honest about it, and to ask the question. So how can I find out?
mm,
And it's not that this is the answer. It's just that, you know, you have to connect with something and allow yourself to be teachable. But all the real spiritual, inverted commas,
mm,
spiritual book or text or teacher would show you is just what's already inside you. They're not going to say, do it my way or the
mm.
highway. It's just allowing you to actually ask the question and then trying to show you that the answer's already within you. And of course, as your vibration or your awareness grows and opens, we have a tendency to think we get the smallest shift and we think we're done.
Right.
We
No.
monetize it, build
Yeah.
a career out of it,
Yes.
et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Start our YouTube channel, and I wanted to kind of just invite people to understand that for every little bit of awakening, there's another set of blockages and problems to come.
Yeah.
And then there's some more awakening, and it's not going to stop. You're not
No,
going to get to the end
no,
because it's the flow of your ordinary life.
exactly.
It's not found anywhere else.
No,
We're not othering ourselves, we're becoming ourselves.
exactly. I love that. I love that. And also, the the self-discovery of, our awakening goes beyond this particular vessel we're in, right? That spirit goes back into that ether, and the wisdom is carried forward, right? And people think that once this body is gone, everything else is gone with it. No, this was just a beautiful experience we're given of the body. And if we can combine the spirit with the body together, it's a real illumination, because
Absolutely.
that gift of touch, of hold, of taste, that kiss, it's beautiful. And if we really can be in tuned and open up all our senses, we would realize that all the buttons that we need to ignite ourselves are already there.
Absolutely. We're almost like kind of like the carriers of the light,
Yeah.
I
We
was
don't know where the
giving
switch is, though.
well, you don't need to really. A line came to me the other day. I wish this was in the book, but a line came to me the other day. I've got this like little private membership space on my website called the Open Space, and this line came to me: "You are the self-illumined sun."
Mm.
But what I realize is that if you think about the sun and the light traveling through space, you don't see the light.
No.
It actually has to land on something.
Mm-hmm.
For you to know there's a thing, otherwise we're just moving in darkness, and to understand that there is light in the first place. And so this is what we're like. We actually, we have to be the thing that is the reflection of the light.
Yes.
And again, that can't be done falsely in any way. And
No.
yet there's nowhere to look, because as you rightly say, the path is just the path of love.
Mm.
And this is kind of like the hugest theme in the book, is that just get real with love in any way that you can, in any bit of tenderness towards yourself, not Pollyanna-ish, not
Yeah.
fakely, but
No.
just even if it's just putting your hand on your heart and
Yes.
saying, I'm here. That's a huge step, and awareness can open up behind that. The light can then meet that. It needs something to touch.
Yes.
But
Yes.
that light is love, because if we think of the sacred or the divine or I use the G word myself.
Mm-hmm.
Those qualities that we talk about are the qualities of the sacred.
Yes.
And so we all know what love is, or we all know what the absence of love is.
Right.
And so the compass is already here for us.
Yes.
Because we know. It's just whether we will or not.
Right. Our own generator is within us, our own compass is within us. Is that we're so busy looking out, we don't realize it's within us. But I also want to talk about light and darkness. There's been in the darkness where you feel almost a suppression, a tightness of being in that darkness. But when you actually realize you are the light in that darkness, and you can be this beautiful glow that reflects in the darkness, you realize the darkness is a beautiful space of peace.
Well, where else is the light going to move?
Exactly.
It's there's not a war, going on. There isn't a war going on between light and dark.
No.
There isn't. That's what there is there's a play of duality going on, which we have come to believe that you have to take one side in order to beat the other.
Yes.
And when the other side is beaten,
then you win.
Then you win, because you are the light.
Right.
But we also choose to try to not do that with kind of very weak, wishy-washy, false impartiality.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I will remain neutral, or
Yes.
Well, we need to look at both sides. And so what we're not understanding, and there's a big exploration of this in Signposts, what we're not understanding is that the opposite of duality isn't a one over the other, but it's wholeness.
Yes, exactly.
In which that light is shining.
It's partnership. Yes, the yin and yang.
So light is not separate from the dark, because how else can the dark move?
Mm,
and then the light is just a fact
yes.
within the darkness.
And you can be blinded by the light if there isn't the shadow or the shading of the dark. It's what gives it contour, it gives it shape. Everything has a reason. But I think if you focus too much on one thing, oh, I've had one epiphany. That's it. I'm going to put everything into that one epiphany. That was only one step you were taking. It might have been a big step, but it's not for you to stop and stay there. It's for you to devour and digest what it is, and it is meant to propel you forward to the next step.
That's right, absolutely. And that is something that, that's our materialist nature, right? I'm
Yes.
done. Now I'm going to build my career out of this or whatever. Um, the secret is to remain a disciple, basically, not to
Always.
become a teacher. You
Yes.
cannot be you cannot be a teacher if you are not a disciple.
The best
Uh,
teachers are those that are living it or have gone through it. They've experienced the experience, because they're not really teaching you how to doing it, they're sharing you how they've done it.
yeah, and also they're just kind of like an example of the light in the
Exactly.
world. Really,
Yes.
that's all.
Yes.
There's not actually uh, uh there's nothing that can be taught in terms of instruction apart
Right.
from maybe, this is good food to eat, which kind
Mm.
of helps you open up the body. This is how to look after your body. We can learn those things,
Yes.
and that's great stuff to do. But in terms of realization, then the only kind of possible instruction can be just kind of like, if this seems to be what's going on. That's what I see. You know, have you considered coming back to love? That's all
Yeah.
it's going to ever
Yeah.
be going to be. It's going to be
Yes.
some form of, well, can you
Arrow
just kind of
pointing you back.
reconnect?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. But
That's the only instruction is you're here. You're
yes.
here.
Everybody, where? Yeah. Well, it's like, as they say, the pointing finger. It's the world's problem, three pointing back at you. You are the solution, So, but, you've had that over 2 million downloads of your meditation technique. So in a sense, you are the teacher, because you are, inspiration begets invitation. So you are inspiring people with your technique that invites them to try it out for themselves. Are they going to do it exactly like you? No, because really you're just a template for them to build on.
Well, I mean, the way I teach meditation, and that insight's just one of the places where I share. So that is a kind of, an angle on
Mm,
things. I have my own site, and then I work with another app as well. I've done some stuff with Calm recently, and now we're finally heading back to kind of real world stuff. So there's the thing at Omega and the Theosophical Society and stuff like that. So because of the book, it's kind of starting to kind of
mm,
grow,
yeah,
and it's being taken seriously as well, which is great. I've not been lumped into
a
you
fad.
know a fad, yeah, sort of fad categories,
Yeah.
yeah. So which is a great relief to me.
Mm,
um and as you say, it's not my technique. What I genuinely do, or what I've genuinely observed, is is that people just need reminding of the need. Space needs holding,
yes.
and so the teacher's job,
Mm,
in one way, is to be kind of the one who says, okay, nobody else is doing it. I will make this space.
mhm.
It's not look at me and copy me.
Yeah, right.
But if I create a space and say to you, okay, so we're going to meditate for 20 minutes. So why don't you actually just let yourself be here instead of
Mm,
being caught up in all your other things, or all the other things that we
mm,
typically get caught up in? Why not just risk it for 20 minutes?
mm,
You know, then what they find is, if you can bring the person back to the smallest bit of awareness in themselves that's not clinging to that outer stuff,
yeah.
then realization takes place on its own. You taste the taste of the stock on its own, or you
The
feel the
nectar.
feeling of the
Mhm.
of the warmth of the sun, in yourself. Then you don't need convincing or being
No.
asked to believe in anything. It's like, okay, there's that. And so you can follow, the path is The path opens up the minute you allow it to. And it is allowing is the word. It's not forcing or believing,
Or
it's
dictating.
allowing.
Hmm.
Yeah. But unfortunately, the spiritual method that we've slipped into in the
Mm.
modern day is believe in it and you can be it.
Yes. Manifest it just by thinking it. No, you have to feel it, be it,
Well,
do
you
it.
know, people get the manifestation thing really, really wrong
Yes.
because they come from a kind of an egoic place with
Mm.
it. And it's not saying that at all, and kind of, the good teachers along that lineage, of which I'm not one, but I understand the mechanism. It's not a case of think of it and it's yours,
Right.
but it's within it, and it's not get rid of all your negative feelings.
Hmm.
Maybe we should actually do a manifestation workshop. But it's actually amongst all that stuff that you're experiencing, positive and negative, if you can find the leading edge of a real genuine feeling
Yes.
that is kind of that has a kind of heartful connection to a sense of where you might want to go with this. Not visualize $1 million,
Yeah.
but just allow a sense of kind of what would wholeness or genuine kind of abundance feel like, but not trying to create it by just thinking about it, but you allow the any bit of reality feeling about it, then that path begins to open.
Mm. The
But if you're
paintbrush is the feeling, isn't it?
creating it egoically, you're just
Yeah.
going to get smacked down.
Yes, exactly.
And the only person manifesting anything is the person who's charging you $250 for that seminar.
Yeah.
You know who I mean.
I do. I do. I do. Exactly. There will always be people who will capitalize, right? Oh, we're onto a good thing. This is what people want. And I call them the sugar hires.
I call
They
them grifters.
right. They get people on the sugar high, they get them up into the euphoria, and then when the people crash down, oh, I've got to do that again, and sign up again, which I never understand because it's not about a sugar high, it's about an equilibrium. And it's not, I'm a Libran, and they think, oh, your balance must be perfect. No, it's like with everything else in life, it's just got to be in flow. I don't want the extremities of an up and a down. I want it nicely just to be in flow, like the rhythm of the heart, like like our DNA strands, like the wavelengths. Everything has a rhythm and it has a flow. And a lot of people think if just think and grow rich. Well, it is feel. It is feel. That's what for me, that divine message, that wisdom that comes through the heart has to be felt by the heart. Right? It has to be felt by the heart and given to the spirit to action to know what the mind needs to do with it. It's
Yeah.
not
Well,
about
the
thinking, it's
soul
feeling
illuminates
it.
the heart, and then the heart
Yes,
can illuminate the mind,
yes,
and
yes,
so you find any real thread of that.
yes,
That's all that's asked. So that's why my website's called Authentic Living,
yeah,
and it's not fake authentic living. It's
right.
just
Being true
find.
to who you really are from the inside out with
Yeah,
your
and
beautiful connection.
that's not the egoic self that you
Right.
think you are. You have to
Yes.
kind of allow, and it's not the pain body self either, because people often think that kind of pain bodied intensity
Mm,
that you feel, that you kind of try and squeeze yourself into, or
yes.
that takes over. Well, that has to be real because it feels so intense.
Mm,
But actually, it's easy to spot, because have you noticed that it always wants to continue itself?
mm,
you know so it's always kind of like it's not about fighting with that stuff.
no.
It's about when those things arise, when that egoic intention arises, when that kind of projection comes out, when that pain body is there, it's allowing for just simple awareness to meet it, and then going, hang on, every time I follow this, I end up in this kind of relationship, or
Mm,
you
mhm.
know
Yes.
I land flat on my face in that way.
I'm
Instead,
repeating a pattern, just coming at
yeah,
it from a different angle.
no, and the mind says, well, no, it's going to be different this time.
Yeah,
Really,
yeah.
you're gonna get that $1 million this time. You're gonna get the girl. You're gonna get the guy. It's all gonna be, um, and that's the sugar high,
Mm,
as you say. But really, it's just like, oh, I see you. I see you. And if you just wait, you don't need to do anything about it. It's like the soul can catch up and
yeah,
say, come, my love. Come on,
yeah.
love. And that's it. We look for that. It's like taking your own hand from
Yes.
within,
The inner
and it's
child,
like, yeah,
comforting the inner child. Yeah.
come on, beloved,
Yes. Yes.
let's just leave that alone because there's a new path here that we haven't followed. I'll take you. I know just a little bit the next step.
Yeah.
So let's try that and see what happens.
But there's also this illusion that when you have stepped into this kind of loving vibration and this way of living, that nothing bad is ever going to happen to you again. And it's like the journey of this human spiritual life is to have experiences. The difference is that when a challenge does come up, when a situation does come up, we know how to handle it better. We now don't sweat the small stuff. We're not going to get ourselves tied up, as the expression is, not getting our knickers in a twist. We're going to reach it calmly and understand, okay, it's another lesson to learn. Right. And I think that's the difference of when you're living on that spiritual plane as to whether you're living on the kind of just the human plane. Why is it doing this to me? I surrendered to love.
Exactly.
And it's like, no, it's just another experience to have. And maybe it's happening to you because you're there meant to be helping somebody else going through it. Right. There's always a reason. It's not out to get you.
It's not out to get you. I'm
No.
not sure there's always a reason. It just is as it is sometimes. We think we can kind of beat illness. We think we can beat death. We think
Yes.
that relationships are meant to work out and all sorts of things. You just don't know sometimes. I
Yeah.
mean, if you're operating without awareness, which doesn't mean kind of figuring everything out in your mind first. I mean, awareness from within, soul-based awareness.
Yeah.
If you're operating cut off from that within yourself, you've excluded that because of cutting off. It's not that it's not there, it's that you're not allowing it. And it's basically fear. It's self-abandonment. That's really what it is.
Yes.
And so we abandon ourselves into the outer realms of sort of, material existence, rather than living through the material of existence. We find then that, illness comes and we are ill.
Yeah.
But how we meet it, well, there's only one choice, isn't there? You're either going to meet it with fear or you're going to meet it with love.
Yeah, and people think that it's love and hate, and it isn't. It's love and
No,
fear.
love
Fear
and
will
fear.
breed the hate.
Yeah,
Fear will
yeah,
breed the violence. Fear will breed the retaliation. That's what fear does. But it is
yeah,
fear. And what is fear?
yeah. And you can
The
try and move
unknown.
forward. You can try and move forward in your healing with fear. If say you get a bad illness, the big C word or something like that. You can try out of fear to heal, and maybe you can, you can do things to the body, or you can still go through the same processes that you need to go through, the chemo and the operation and so on and so on, and take the tablets and things, and maybe even wider, there are wider ways of working, of course, as well. It's not don't do that, but the difference between doing it with fear and doing it with
Yes.
love,
Yes.
even if you don't live one more day,
Yeah.
at least your days will have had love in them.
And isn't that what it's all about?
Well, that's right, because it's not a guarantee of another day.
No.
It's what we choose for this moment
Yes.
right now. If you live this moment with some love, not false love, but actual love, then there's a possibility that the next minute can have some in. But if you don't have this minute in love, there's probably less likelihood. The more we cut off from ourselves, it doesn't mean we're saving more for later.
No.
It just
No.
means that
Yes.
there's nothing when you get there.
Right.
So in a way, the future in a way is important, but it's now that's more important.
Well, the
And it's
seeds you plant today, right? What you
absolutely
water today
because,
is what's going to grow tomorrow. So choose
well,
your
for
seeds
for for
wisely.
every tiny bit of light that you allow within yourself, you'll find there is more light.
Yes.
I
Yes.
say, but you're not going to change somebody else. You're not going to change, a politician, or you're not going to change these.
Or a
These
dictator.
worlds. These worlds are so embedded
Yeah.
in their egoic sense of
Mm,
self. I mean, that doesn't mean to say don't stand up, but
mm.
stand up in awareness.
Yes.
So instead of being reactive. And then you can be played, of course, when you're
Right.
reactive.
Yes.
So, so you're manipulable. The longer you hang on to uh, pain body, to codependence, to, you know, the societalized version of yourself and so on, instead of actually uncovering who you actually are from the soul outwards
Mm.
and allowing that to shine through your body and life and your action, then amazingly, everybody else can see that and manipulate you with it. And you think you're all right, and you think the world is against you. But actually, it's your unhealing
Yes.
and your refusal to heal that is what's making things seem to be against you.
Right.
You
We're
know?
our own worst enemies, aren't we? We don't need an
Yeah,
enemy. We are the
yeah,
enemy.
yeah.
I did a
And then
show
you're
in,
going to meet difficult people and you're going to meet difficult
yes,
things.
because that's
But,
the frequency you're resonating on. So you're
well,
going to,
that's right.
like attracts like. Yeah.
It does. It really does.
Yeah.
It really does. And again, this is all the kind of material that I've tried to look at in the book in a way. So not just this is what's going to happen, but this is how you actually begin to work with that.
Right.
There's a section called is it called the gentle path of positive upgrade?
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. And it's kind of just like, just the smallest real step with each thing, not jump to the end already, but just
No.
like, have a
Yes.
salad with that,
Yeah, exactly. But I think this is kind of where we've been conditioned as a society. It's the end game that counts. No, it isn't. It's the journey that counts. This show platform is called self-discovery. You're going to discover something about yourself today that is going to be revealing, or it's going to be wonderful or not wonderful. If it's something you don't like, then it's an opportunity to deal with it and change. I don't like the way I present myself that way. Where is it coming from? A place of fear, a place of inadequacy, a
Yeah.
place of insecurity. Why do I feel insecure? Because I'm living this outside life, looking for everybody else's approval. And if
Yeah.
you're looking for everybody else's approval, I guarantee you will never, ever, ever satisfy anyone.
Well, there's a
Because,
really simple tool we can use, and I will offer this to our listeners today, which is just with whatever situation you find yourself in, just allow yourself to take a little bit longer,
mm,
perhaps. But it's not really time based because love is instant.
yeah,
But if you allow for the question in yourself, what is the loving choice here? You're not going to go far wrong.
right.
Loving doesn't mean loving the negative actions of another person.
Mm-mm.
Do you remember Jonathan Livingston Seagull, the
Yes,
book
I
on
love
love?
his books.
Yeah,
Yes.
I love that book, by Richard Bach. Um, Fletcher Seagull is talking to Jonathan Livingston Seagull, and he said, and they're looking at all this flock kind of fighting and
Mm,
squabbling and all that. And Fletcher says to him, "You can't love that. You can't love that." And Jonathan says to him, "Well, no, you don't love that. You love that that's inside them.
yeah,
And what you do is you talk to them as if they were already kind of living that.
yeah.
You reflect who they really are back to
You
themselves
see themselves from
rather
the
than
inside out. Yeah,
that's right.
yeah,
And but what we mistake is the negative action of the
yes.
thing, you know,
And
for
judgment
who
then
the
steps
person
in.
is.
Mm.
Yeah. Oh, and we do that with ourselves, of
Oh,
course, as
yes, of
well.
course.
I'm the lowest of
Self-persecution.
the low,
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, I mean,
If only you knew what I was really like,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
that's a big British thing, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And that again is that insecurity, and that insecurity is always going to have you going around a treadmill. Yeah, but what if if I did this differently or that differently and this differently? And it's such a waste of time. It is
It is.
just be the love that you would love to be loved in,
Yeah.
right? And if you
Yeah.
are the love, your beautiful loving vibration will precede you through any door.
Yeah. And you ask, and it all comes from that question. What is
Yes.
the loving choice in this moment? It's
Yeah.
always about a question.
Yeah.
Questions create space, you
And it,
know?
it doesn't mean you have to condone an action, right?
No, that's right.
It's you may not like what they're doing, but if you choose to love or like what's within them, why there's always a reason why somebody is retaliating or attacking. It is because they feel they're defending their inner selves without knowing. And if they just simply loved their inner selves, there wouldn't be the need for the attack. But they don't know that yet. So if you could shed
No.
light on that love, if you could ignite their heart in some way, just try and pump it up a little bit so they feel that love within themselves.
Well,
You know?
possibly, but in situations where things are kind of completely out of control,
Yeah.
it can also be an act of love to gently sort of shepherd somebody off the stage, can't it?
Yes.
I'm trying to say
Yes.
this in a very nice way, but it's just like, no, no, you shouldn't be front and center with the
Yeah.
spotlight on you, but just come away,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And something that I talk about, towards the end of Signpost is something we forget, particularly people who would use the S word for themselves, that they're living a spiritual life
Mm.
or something like that, is we look at the material world and all the kind of craziness of it, and there's this kind of almost like kind of spiritual tutting at
Yeah.
that, that kind of, politicians, and
Yeah.
the teachers, and
Mm.
the pharmaceutical industry, da 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 da. And uh, what we do is we kind of hand the responsibility for society over to
Mm.
those things.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, what we're forgetting is that we're the society.
Yes. Finger three are back at us. Yes.
Yeah, you are
Yes.
the society. So if you
Yes.
have any level of consciousness in you, then there's a wonderful bit, and I can't remember where it is in the Bible. I'm struggling to kind of remember where it is. There's a bit where Jesus talks about just cleaning up in front of your own house.
Mm.
I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if you can point me
No.
to the
No.
bit.
Can't afraid.
Uh, but uh, but there's a bit about just if you just cleaned in front of your own house, you know,
Yes.
and then maybe you can clean a couple of yards of your neighbors. That would be
Yeah.
great,
Yes.
But
Be more welcoming. Mm-hmm.
yeah, it would be. But if you were just even selfishly, if every
Yes.
person
Yes.
cleaned in front of their own house,
Right.
the world would look fantastic.
We don't
The
have
world
to
would be a
love the
different
whole
place.
world. We could just love the next person next to us, and so on and so on. I mean,
You don't even have to do that. You could be selfish. Just
yeah,
clean in front of your own
yeah,
house.
yeah.
You know?
Be the love that you see. I'm actually, going to look at the Ukraine right now. There's a horrific war going on there, totally unjustified. But look at the spirit of the people. With Molotovs, with very little weaponry, they have stood tall together for the love of the country, for the love of each other, against this giant. And it is horrific. They know they're basically being the David and the Goliath, but they're standing tall as that David, together, united. And yeah, maybe weapon is in hand because that's what's being thrown at them, but they're doing it out of that unison, out of that love for their people and their country, and standing tall for it. And I don't condone war on any level at any time, but it does happen. And what do we do when we have that? Why do people repress others? It's when others crumble underneath it, that if we stand united together in that love for the people, love for what is right, then we stand up against that repression, and we knock it down, because the only way it has power is if it's feeding the fear. But if you put love in its place and love rises up, what happens to the repressor?
Well, exactly. And the thing is that, as you rightly said, the repressor believes there's an end game, that there's
Mm,
something to be achieved by this. And of course, that's their delusion,
yes.
and those are the kind of people that we gently need to escort off the
Off the
stage,
stage,
basically.
well and truly.
It's just
Yes.
like, come. And actually, it can be a loving thing. I had a friend who was very, very ill, mentally and emotionally, and I had to, this is about 20 years ago. And one day, I knew he was in a bad way in his flat, and he'd got into using drugs and stuff as well. And so I had to break his door down and carry him in my arms to the hospital, and literally put him into the psychiatric ward.
Yes.
That is a loving action. Now, we may need to do that with some of these people. We may need to kind of,
Yes.
you know,
Yes. And they
come
may
on,
hate you
you
at the
know,
time. And it's okay. That's their
that's
reaction.
okay. That
That's
doesn't matter.
Don't take that on. You're
No, that
doing it
doesn't matter in
with
a way.
love. The agenda is for them to get well. You're
Yeah.
doing it with love. Don't worry about if they hate you now.
The
All
bigger,
right.
the bigger aspect of this, if we look at it, is that this pattern, because you're talking about one particular situation, but this pattern keeps playing out
Yeah. over
because
and over.
we can name 20 other situations right
Yes,
now, you
exactly.
know. And so, and it's not a case of whataboutism,
Mm.
right? Because that's just nonsense. But it's a case of understanding that these things keep playing out because we won't choose love. We won't. And you might think to yourself, yes, but what have I got to do with it? It's nothing to do with me. I am
Everything to
behaving
do with you.
okay, right? But
Everything.
your step into consciousness, your step
Yes,
into awareness, by the degree of your step into awareness, that removes that pain body from the world by the
right.
degree of you.
Yes,
That's how important you are,
yes,
you know? So, and then when you realize your potential as a regular human being with this awareness, and if you are prepared to actually be part of the society, then you
mm,
are capable of making enormous changes, you
yeah,
know? So, it's, we can, I in the book it says, we have to end the war in ourselves.
yes, I
And
agree.
it's the war of the duality
Yeah,
of, I'm good, I'm bad, I'm this, I'm that. It's the return to love, the return to awareness.
I mean,
And that's not some hippy dippy go off into a cave thing. It's actually about ordinary real life.
it's what about what life is meant to be.
Yeah,
It really
absolutely.
is. And there's corny songs written about it, poems written about it, everything's written about it. But we will sing along, we'll read along, but we won't be along. It's not about what you're doing, it's about what you're being. And when you are the love, everything that you do will have an impact, a
Yeah. But the
positive
thing is,
impact.
the thing is, following this, I found this for myself before the change. I went through kind of, the awakening change, and then it just carried on. Basically, it wasn't once and done. It was
Mm,
like, oh, now there's more, is there? Oh,
yeah.
blimey, and I just let that continue. But what was the big hit for me was understanding that I didn't know what love was.
Mm,
You see, all those representations of love that were presented within all those
right.
songs, those are largely codependent,
Yes.
dysfunctional
Yes.
representations of
With a
love
condition to them.
with a condition to them, and
Yeah.
the other person is the answer to your
Yeah.
emptiness.
Yes.
Now, that's not love, I'm
No.
afraid. Love is you in awareness, in some greater wholeness of yourself, another person in their wholeness, in
Mm,
some deeper way of themselves, and
yeah.
you resonate together. It's that resonant space between you that
Yes.
is the field of love.
Him,
They are
her,
not your
us.
answer.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
You're
My,
bringing the
my wife
best
and
of
I,
yourself, but it's the
yeah.
us that you make because of the strength of your individuality. Yeah.
My wife and I always say it's you and me and the space in between that is home.
Yes. Yes.
You know.
We don't want people to complete you. It's people who complement you,
Ah, beautiful.
right?
Yeah, exactly. And so that's it sounds like we're talking about something, this L word, but actually this is how we end the war.
Yes.
You know, I mean,
Every
this is the
war.
this this is the long game.
Yeah.
This is the long game. In the kind of in the relative world and the material world as it is in this minute, you may need to just bring something down and say stop.
Yes.
You know, but even that can be done with awareness.
Yeah.
Uh, you can literally wipe out everybody and say, right, that's it, it's done. Or you can say
Enough, enough.
enough, you know.
Mm,
And put what you need in a kind of relative means, understanding that there's so much work to do beyond that. It's not an end in itself, a kind of a clamping down on something isn't peace,
no.
and trying to hold it and control it. Control is not peace,
No, never. We have no
and
control
it's
other
not
than
freedom.
choice. Yes.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's not freedom either.
No.
Clamping down on people is not freedom, but allowing, and egoic freedom is not freedom.
No.
The only freedom that there is awareness.
Hmm. And that's in the attunement of one's own self, of the people around you. That is, allowing yourself to always be, but also adjusting maybe your dialogue for other people who are at different stages of their growth. What people don't want is somebody who has reached a certain awareness lording it over someone else.
No, I talk
right?
about this. That's funny. You're naming all the parts of the book. It's like there's a bit it can get about a third of the way, and it's like, okay, so you've got a bit of awareness now.
Mm.
I bet you're preaching at your mum and dad, aren't you? And
Exactly.
because I'm from the north of England, so you just kind of say it like it is up here.
Yeah.
So it's like, I bet you, because you do. You think,
Yes.
oh, I found the good news. I found
Yes.
the
The
good
Holy
news.
Grail. Yeah.
You know. So listen, Dad. All you need to do is be
Yeah.
present.
Yeah.
All you need to do is love Dad.
Yeah.
And your dad's looking at you, going, "You
What
idiot."
are you on?
You know.
Yeah.
But actually, the act of love would be with the parents at Thanksgiving, or the family Christmas, or the ex husband or the ex-wife or whatever, is to not be in reaction, to be grounded in awareness. So when you spend time with them, if you are non-reactive, which doesn't mean you're a doormat,
Right.
right? Because
You're
only
just
the
not
ego,
feeding it.
well,
Hmm.
only the ego can be a doormat.
Right.
But if you're not the doormat, if you are more based in wholeness, awareness, or heart, or soul, or whatever word you want, then you can see their stuff and you just let it pass. And if it is too much, then there's a place for proper boundaries coming from love and awareness.
Right. No, but no,
Boundaries
no.
are love.
It's interesting you say this because I literally, the reason why I got the call from my darling little 1-year-old grandson, we were celebrating his birthday this weekend. And it was also my son-in-law's birthday a couple of days beforehand. And the whole family went to my daughter's. And that means my ex, and that means the aunts and uncles with their significant others, and the house was full and the other grandparents came over, and it was actually wonderful, because we're all celebrating this little boy turning 1 who has captured all of our hearts, and just we're all singing songs and things like this. It's absolutely wonderful. But my ex did had to have a spaz, and it was just kept a smile on my face. I didn't have to say anything. In fact, it was one of the other kids. Cool down and go outside. We don't want this here.
Yeah.
Right? And somebody else shut it down. It wasn't for me to shut it down. It's just not acceptable. This is a weekend and a place of love, and this is the love that we want to have here. And it was a fabulous weekend, and whatever the spaz was forgotten, and we all just moved on. But it was wonderful to see, because it's a rare occasion nowadays, a whole family being together in one celebration. And that is a gift in itself, especially after the last couple of years. And I think if we could treasure certain moments and have this big, huge word in our vocabulary, gratitude, we would actually understand that's an ingredient to love as well.
It's to say, yeah, absolutely. There are some things that lead back,
Mm,
and that's kind of what we're talking about in a way. It's that you might not know what love is, but you might kind of have some gratitude for something.
yes,
Well, that is the path to love.
yes, yes.
And
And kindness.
what's amazing about these, there are two different kinds of feelings.
Mm,
There are kind of conditioned feelings, and then there are kind of natural feelings: compassion, empathy, gratitude, this big L word, love, tenderness. Those things are natural to us. The rest is kind of, built out of the conditioning
mm,
to hate and so on and
yeah.
so on, reactivity and so on. So those are not our genuine feelings. That's a kind of secondary layer that we believe we egoically move into, and we think they're ourselves, or they are the other person because they're behaving like that. And that person will be convinced that that's who they are.
Mm,
But the truer feelings, the feelings of that come under the sun of love,
yes.
as it were, those are all paths to the sacred, all
Yeah.
paths to the sacred of ordinariness.
Yes.
I'm really I stress again and again and again that it's not an extraordinary experience we're trying to have, but actually just a realization of our ordinariness in its wholeness, because there is nothing else. And it's not
Mm.
like, oh, there's nothing else. It's
No.
it's that this is it. You are who you are for because this is what the universe needs in you, not your ego self, but
Right.
that light of you.
Yes. I get people ask me, do you interview celebrities? And I said, I celebrate everybody I interview. And I interview ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And we are all ordinary. I don't care, if you're at the top of your game, if you are the beeswax. Underneath all of that, we're just ordinary people trying to have an impact
Yeah.
on life, right? And
Yeah.
some people do it very well, and some people are still struggling. But the
Yeah.
whole point is stepping into your light. Why are we in our light? Is to shed light on other people's darkness, to show them the way forward. That's what it is. It's always about paying it forward, reflecting on a path for other people to see. And everything that we go through and everything that we become, and when we step into this beautiful place of love, meaningful purpose, it is there to share. Never, ever, ever is there, well, I've given you enough love, you've had your fill. No, we can never give enough love. Our cup can always run
Well,
out
if
over.
you feel like you're giving it and there's an end to it, then that ain't love.
No, exactly.
No,
If there's a
that's something
condition to
else.
it, or you've had enough, I'm going to give it to someone else.
Yeah.
No, you're not in
But
the truth.
you can have had enough of their behavior, or you can have
True.
enough of your own behavior,
Yes.
and you're like, well, I'll take myself home,
Yeah.
actually. I think just for today, I'm going to walk myself off the stage. And that's actually an extremely
Yes.
advanced thing when you've
Yeah.
when you've had enough of your own BS, you
Yes.
know,
Yes.
then you're cooking, so, it's never about being a doormat to yourself or somebody
No.
else. It's about, you know, love, like I say, it's not about an end game. It's what's the loving choice in this moment. And
Yes.
it can be to leave. It can
Yes.
be to say something. It can be to not say something.
It's again, it's that judgment that you make on, is it wise to say something or act to something right now, or is it just to be present in this space of love?
Mm. But it's not about being right ever.
No,
No.
no,
We're not you're not saying something because you're right.
you're right.
You're saying something because it's an act of love to say this.
Yes.
And if it's said in that right mode, then it will actually bring something. Or the person might react to you and tell you to go
Mm.
all over the shop, as it were. But then later on, and this happens quite a lot, I've seen this happen quite a lot. You kind of try to drop something in, the person, "Ah,"
Mm.
and then later on they go, well, you were right. You were
Yeah.
right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You were right. And
But
so,
that's, you're seeding. You're seeding, right? It's up to them if they water the and let it grow. But
mm,
through your wisdom, through what you've written, through the talks that you do, you're seeding that wisdom, right? And you can only offer so much water. You can't water everybody's plant. They've got to take over the watering can and
well,
water and nurture it.
the thing is, there's no me doing anything. If I take an invitation, like to come on kindly, you invited me onto your show or get invited to a mega or somewhere else. My job isn't to I've got a certain amount of stuff I've got to distribute it amongst people.
Right.
It's just to kind of
Ignite.
radiate,
Mm-hmm.
you know, to kind of, or to transmit a little bit or something by being just what is, basically.
Yes.
And yeah, you've got a theme to talk about or something like that just gives you some way of passing the time. But actually the thing that you talk about isn't that it isn't the stuff of the day, really. It's people will actually see your energy, your heart,
Yes. Yes.
your
Yes.
light,
Yes.
whether you're BSing or whether you've got some authenticity to
Right.
you. But if you're looking for words that you agree with, if
Mm-hmm.
you're looking for, oh, yes, well, that's a person that, you know,
Mm.
that person's vibe is my tribe,
Mm.
you're in hell already.
Mm-hmm.
Seeking through agreement is always going to lead you into darkness.
Yes.
Always, always. Agreement is not it.
No.
But resonance of the light is
Mm-hmm.
another thing altogether. And so you might be like, oh, he says that word. He uses the G word. I don't like the G word. Imagine if you're throwing somebody else away
Yeah.
because they use a word that's different to you.
Right. Exactly.
You
Which which
know?
which as a society we have become.
Yeah, we've done that. Oh, you
Yes.
say things that way. No,
Yeah.
you're gone. You
Yeah.
know. I like I say, my thing, the open space, it kind of
Mm.
was born out of a necessity that I can see. Because I mean, without getting into anything political at all, I don't stop anybody coming to my sessions.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have an idea that if you vote this way, then you're probably going to be a
Right.
spiritual person,
Yes.
or if you're kind of, if you kind of, make your own yogurt, then you're spiritual, or whatever. You wear Birkenstock, so you're spiritual. I make my own yogurt and I do wear Birkenstocks, by the way. So I
Double
must be
spirituality.
spiritual.
Yeah, of course.
Double spirituality. But I was teaching a retreat, and some people other than you would expect turned up at my retreat, right? Then would fit into kind of the picture you think
Yes.
of a spiritual person. And I'm like, this is really interesting. And I'd only been kind of considering it at this moment. I hadn't actually kind of moved anything into place. And again, this is also in Signposts. This attitude kind of runs through the book. Is that it's not who you vote for, and it's
Mm.
not what you believe in, and it's not what your money is, and it's
What
not
you
what your
wear.
background is.
Mhm.
It's not what somebody did to you in the past. It's not this. It's whether you will allow consciousness or not, because the only thing that will change anything is the light, is the
Mm.
consciousness. And it's not a belief. It's that the minute you taste anything that's true of that in you,
Yeah.
it's not like you start voting in a different way or making different food.
Yeah.
You might, or you might say, why am I having this war? Or why am I treating my employees in this way? Well, you will, because the empathy, you self-remember.
Yes, yes, yes,
You
yes.
remember the truth of yourself rather than abandoning yourself.
Right.
And so in any moment of self-remembrance, you also remember the other.
I have a channel, a business channel, and the absolute delight of interviewing a lot of business people today is the awareness they've stepped into. Instead of profit at the expense of people and planet, is people and planet before profit. And it's about how you treat people. It is about giving people that wonderful experience that they are a part of, that you respect them, that you are grateful for them, whether it's the customer or the people that are working with you. And it is a team thing. And that in itself makes people feel that they want to be a part of something, they want to contribute to it, they want to put their name and their essence and their energy to it because they're proud of it. And we're seeing more and more business go that way, and more people going to governments and slowly integrating. Treat humanity with respect and love, and you will get triple the profit, because the profit is also in the enrichment and in the abundance of light and love that will manifest in whatever money you need to sustain. But if we could take away the importance of money as being a representative of who you are or how rich you are, because it isn't. I don't care how rich you are in the bank, how enriched are you as a person, and how abundant are you making other people feel around you?
Well, I used to, be a counselor and kind of, be a kind of therapist, I suppose. And I can't tell you the number of extraordinary wealthy people who came to me absolutely hating their lives.
Oh, yes,
You know,
yes. Oh, yeah.
and it's not that the money is a problem, as it were, but it's that this other stuff isn't sorted out. Because the thing is that if we think of money as a resource,
Mm,
and if we allow ourselves to kind of like, again, this same question, what's the loving choice at this moment?
yeah,
Then you would use your resources differently than you would if it's an egoic attachment to a thing that you
right.
think is making you somebody who you are. So, and we don't do that. And in business, this is a thing that you see a lot
Mm,
in the, they'll have well-being sessions or mindfulness sessions and things like that. But the pay scale stays the same,
yes.
or the kind of, or the overworking remains,
Mm,
that culture remains.
mm,
So unless there's that shift of consciousness within the CEO
yeah.
or ourselves within,
Hmm.
we could be the CEO of our own lives.
Yes.
Uh, unless that shift happens or is allowed within us, then we actually just put surface stuff on. We don't really make the significant changes. There are many other ways of doing things, more cooperatively,
Mm,
more win-win based, more
mm,
synergistically.
mm.
And so
Collaborative.
allowing those kind of way, and then people want to bring their talents rather
Yes.
than just, right, just grinding through,
Mm,
doing as little as possible just to get the wage sort of
right.
thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think
Yeah.
COVID has definitely done that. It's changed the structure of how business is done and how people are willing to give of themselves. Just saying basically that paycheck you give me, is not enough
It's not
for
enough.
it's not enough,
Mm.
because unless you are receiving me and all that I have got to give, I'm just a robot doing a job for a paycheck. And people are tired
Yeah,
of being that. And it's the whole thing about awakening and allowing and becoming and stepping into consciousness is to realize we are so much more than we've been led to believe. And there's so much more that we can achieve and do in this world collectively, collaboratively, consciously together, that if we really decided to come together, we would truly actually understand the existence of us being here.
absolutely. Absolutely. And if we start moving in gentle action from this place of asking that question,
Mm-hmm.
what's the aware thing here? What's the, you know, or realizing you don't know, so you take time, or you allow sort of, presence to kind of come into the situation rather than moving to reaction. What's the loving choice here? Then you can actually start shaping the world in a much
Yes.
better way, and that begins with, whatever size business you have, for example, you can actually make your business, profit and kind of loss and all this stuff. That's only one part of it,
Mm-hmm.
you know. At the end of the day, the only reason you have a job is to kind of, either provide a service or um, uh, because you want to kind of employ people so
Yeah.
that they can actually live their lives.
Mm-hmm.
That's and so we do that well. Of course, you can try other models of business of kind of like profit for all,
Yeah.
for all insanity or whatever, and it always leads to the same place. We see that over and over again, and it's interesting. We always have a choice here.
Yeah.
We always have a choice.
My son owns a restaurant, and he did something I'm very proud of. And a couple of weeks ago, he made all of his staff owners of the restaurant for a week, which meant they shared the entire profit. And it's they have had to work very hard through these COVID times and constantly a roller coaster. They're about to go through back into a very busy season because spring and summer and fall extremely busy. And it was just to say, I appreciate you. And I think if, that is something as human being, we want to know that we are appreciated, because then we know that our essence is being felt, that our love is being received. And, that again, going back to that gratitude. And I think sometimes a simple thank you can mean a great deal.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the thing we have to where we find appreciation is always in the authentic, of course, isn't
Yes.
it? You
Yes, it
know,
is.
it's not
Yeah.
going to be for something false ever.
No.
So, to see and be seen,
Mm.
it's always going to lie in that heart of kind of truth in a way, that heart of authenticity.
Let's quickly talk about your couple of other books. You've got Full Blood here, Transparency. Sorry, I haven't got my glasses on. Just,
Oh, there's eight. I think there's 8 books at the minute. So,
okay.
so yeah. Well, I kind of grew up in literature, so I've actually
Mm.
had a new poetry book out as well. So I've written kind of memoir, essays, poetry. That's the new poetry book. It's called So. That
Mm-hmm.
came out. They're so linked together. These two, I think of them as one. So So was kind of put together at the same time that Signposts was being written, and they even cross over at times. So it's
Mm-hmm.
really quite strange. And I'm a literary editor for a thing called the Royal Literary Fund in the UK. um, a thing within the Royal Literature Fund called Writers' Mosaic. So I kind of moved into the arts in the
Mm.
90s, and in the same way, I thought, well, instead of just kind of egoically doing this, what if you really do it? What if you
Yeah.
genuinely work with creativity? What if you genuinely kind of try to see? And it's interesting, one of the themes in all of my books is actually seeing people, getting out of the way,
Mm-hmm.
and instead of giving you my opinion, actually trying to paint a true picture of somebody,
Yes.
you know. And of course, that's as limited as one's talent, as it were. But somehow the light gets into it
Mm-hmm.
because of that kind of truth of it. It was Hemingway, I think, who said um, the writer needs to become so transparent that the only thing that the reader experiences is the experience and the journey and the
Yes.
meeting of the people.
Yes.
Whereas when we look at a lot of writing now, you only see one word, even though there are many different words. You just hear the word me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Me. And so art is a way to go beyond the me,
Mm-hmm.
to have space for the sacred and for the other,
Mm-hmm.
and I always loved it because of that. But strangely, arts has kind of almost kind of fallen away. So I'm very old fashioned. I think that literature is about the human condition, and what the truth is and what the beauty is. But we've become much more sophisticated now, so we think we're other than that.
It's for me, when I read a book and I can feel myself in it, I'm there, I'm it. And then I want to talk about it afterwards, or I reflect back on it. Then yeah, I've
What
had
books
an
have done that for
experience.
you?
Oh,
Can you?
well, actually, I have to say my brother's books. Sam Hawksmoor, he does a lot of youth writing, but he does a lot of parody writing, and he always takes kind of almost a societal thing that is happening, makes it into a thriller. There's Jenny, a love interest, and he seems to always have either a kid or an animal in there, which can get him into trouble sometimes. But I love reading his books because there's a hell of a lot of undercurrent consciousness awakening or dimensional stuff, or reflection, and it's I love doing that. He could be a moo cow in life, no, never. But when it comes to his art, it's definitely his soul truth that comes through the work. But I mean, a
And that's one of
simple
the first windows, isn't it? That's the thing.
yes,
I
yes,
kind of I think that in our own lives, we tend to kind of like we hold on to the limitation for a bit longer. But if we play music, if
mm,
we write, if we have some creative outlet, then that allows for a bit of God to come through, a bit of space to,
yes,
or a bit of soul to shine out.
yes.
It's not us,
No, it is
that
through
it's
us.
through us.
Yes, but
I
using our human intellect, or in order to
absolutely,
understand what's coming through us, in order to create the picture. So it's not
exactly.
like just channeling; it's
No, no,
channeling your
no.
comprehension.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can craft with that. You work with
Yes.
that and you
Yes.
work and you work and you work with it to best be of service to the light. I mean,
Yeah.
if you say if my editor rang me up again today and said, "Can you write another one just like that?" I'd be like, "No, I couldn't even
No.
tell you how I wrote this in the first place because,
Exactly.
and here it is in my hand. I know it
Yeah.
exists. I know I wrote it, but at
Right.
the same time, I'm not walking around going, "Oh, darling, I wrote a book. You've got to worship me now."
Right.
It's
Exactly.
like it's more like I look at it and I go, "How the heck did I do that?"
Right.
So
Yeah. That's
you
yeah.
give
That's
yourself up to the task each time.
exactly, and that actually is the wonderment. I'm a blogger. I'm meant to be writing my own book. It's finding the time to do it, but it is. I'm a blogger. I'm an article writer, and every week I do my own show of some sort of perception that's going on. Sometimes I know what I want to say. Sometimes it's literally one word I will see, and blah, there it comes out. And I've read articles um, that I wrote 20 years ago and thought, who wrote this? Because it's you are that instrument at that time for that
Yeah.
message.
And it will be
And
as good as it can be at that time
at
because
that
the only
time,
thing that can improve, the
yes,
technical aspects can
yes,
improve,
yes,
but what
yes,
what really needs to improve is your allowing clarity of the light to come through,
yes,
as it were.
yes, yeah,
And then you just literally set eyes on your subject and it will move. It
yes,
will move. There's no
yes,
such thing as writer's block. I'm sorry, there's not. But there are times to write and there are times not to write.
yes.
There are times to nourish yourself and rest, and there's times where you can, but the thing isn't just to keep going, going, going.
No,
But creativity is endless, but you do need to rest the instrument, and we are the instrument.
we are the instrument. Yes, to everything.
Yeah,
Beginning of the year, I said, what is going to be on your canvas this year? You are the paintbrush.
yeah. And the
Allow the
painting.
and the painting, allow the creativity to come through and paint the canvas that you want to see for this year. Not something that, oh, it's going to be this, and no, no, don't bring last year into it. Right? The wonderment. I
Yeah,
don't think we live enough in wonderment. And I think if we
yeah,
if we lived in wonderment of what will today bring. I'm grateful to be waking up. I'm grateful to have something to do today that I love to do. I'm grateful to be interviewing people that are going to, in like my own wonderment there, that are going to be a contributor. And I think that's something important. What are we contributing? because every single one of us are renters here. We are here on this planet for this experience. We're all meant to participate in one way or the other, all meant to contribute. What are we contributing that's making a difference in the lives of others? So it's don't keep waiting for somebody else to do it. I don't care whether you're giving a fraction, a grain of sand, or the whole beach. Just contribute.
Yeah, it's not about the amount at the end. It's just about the kind of the movement,
Yes.
the the movement into action. That's all that it is. And the more we can take our ego out of it, the better. It's not about. I come across so many people because this is literally kind of the day job,
Yes.
or one of the day jobs, because this is kind of taking over big time now. Um, so many people, come at creativity and writing. Writing's the world I know, particularly literature,
Mm-hmm.
at a very high level, and I just see over and over again the identification with the creation, and almost like the number of people that will come up to you and say, "Well, I'm a writer too," you know, as if you need to know,
Mm-hmm.
rather than or it's almost like taking it. It's almost like they take your book out of your hands and try to put theirs in yours and say,
Yeah.
I'm more special, I'm more
Yeah.
special, or I'm just as special too. But actually, you would do far better with that if you just kind of turned up,
Yeah.
and you be the offer.
Yeah.
And if there's a book, that's fantastic, But I think this gentler way is definitely a better approach to things.
Yes. It's not, your importance is not defined. I mean, I'm coming up to my 10th anniversary of podcasting, and it's but where's your book, Sarah? And I mean, it will be written one day. It'll be written. When the time is right, it will come out. It will
Yeah.
not be able to stay in, right? But in the meantime, I've got other things to do, and having a book. But it's so important you have your own book. And am I less important because I don't have a book?
Mm.
Right. And I think,
I had actually no intention of writing signposts, and when Watkins first approached me, I had actually retired from writing
mm,
completely in 2014. And there were pieces in the newspapers here and things like that. I used to do a lot on BBC Radio 4 in the UK. I used to, there's a program called Poetry Please. Do you remember that?
mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I was one of the voices on Poetry Please quite often and things. So I kind of announced my retirement, and because I was done.
Mm,
I'd actually finished with writing. I was going to open a restaurant or something. And I'm not kidding. So at 6 books, I decided that was enough.
yeah.
And I didn't really want to be part of that world anymore because of the ego and
Mm,
the kind of aristocratic nature of it and so on. It's really quite horrendous at times,
yes.
from that ego sort of standpoint. And I love true art, but I just didn't see any being made anymore,
Yeah.
really. And so when Watkins rang me up in 2019, I think it was, and said, "We'd love for you to write us a book. We've been, seeing you do what you do,
Mm,
and there's something going on there. Would you do something for us?" I actually said no initially, and because I was absolutely convinced that I shouldn't write another book. But then I just did that thing that we do, which is I said to God in one of my meditations, I just offered it up basically. Should I do this?
mm-hmm.
And there was the too bloody right, mate, kind of
Floodgates
thing.
open. Yeah.
And it wasn't floodgates open. It was, I had to kind of turn up every day.
Mm,
I had to write my word count every day. I had to work with my editor. It wasn't me. This is my unique work of
mm,
genius, and you must not change a word. It's change everything you want, basically. And at the end of the day, if I don't like where we're going with it, I'm just going to say no again. There
right.
was no, I have to get a book out because it completes me in some
Right.
egoic way
Mm-hmm.
and makes me look like a special spiritual person. It's what it my only rationale for writing these 2 books were: is there a place for them?
Yes.
Do
The
I
time
feel
is
like,
right. The time
yeah,
is
the
right.
time is
Mm,
right for them? And it's not whether there is even a readership for them,
there
because there
is.
may not be at this time,
Oh, there
you
is a
know,
lot of people awakening right now.
and so you can't factor that in
Right.
a way. You just have to do the work that you've been asked
Yes.
to do,
Yes.
and God will do the rest, basically.
Yeah, it's leave the exterior and go interior, and just, it is, don't even try and edit it as you're doing it,
Oh
right?
God, no! You must
No,
never do that.
no,
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 no.
it
Done,
is
done, done is better than perfect, and then
right.
you edit,
Yes,
and
exactly.
then you edit.
Yeah, and
You
don't try
know,
and dictate or control. Just let it be, right?
yeah,
Let it be, let it come. And what is
yeah.
meant to be there, yes, you can refine, but the message is there, and that's the importance. That's the
Well,
reason
very
why it
often
had to be.
you very often have to write a book and throw it away. So, because only writing the book the first time and not using what you wrote shows you what you really want to write.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even a case of refining it. In fact, in the case of Signposts, and my editor was really shocked when I told her Signpost is 75-ish thousand words, and I wrote 400,000
Wow.
in the 2 years of
Mm-hmm.
working on the actual writing of it, and then we spent a year on the editing. And in that 3 year period, there were 400,000 words generated because I use uh, I don't use it to correct my grammar, but I use a grammar checking system
Yes.
which allows me to reflect on what my choices should be,
Right.
rather than saying, "Hey, computer, sort it all out for
Yeah.
me." And it told me that I'd written like 425,000 words or something like that. And I didn't carve Signpost out of that. It was just
Mm.
that was the process,
Yes.
as it were.
Yes.
Yeah,
And that really is the way life is that we're going to kind of pour out, but then how do we focus in, right?
yeah.
So
And that's what
that's,
editing is.
yeah,
Editing is actually revealing the light. It's not
yeah,
every word I write is genius.
yes,
It's almost like, that block of marble and
mm,
carving down until
yes,
you get to the angel inside,
right,
basically, isn't it?
yeah,
You
it
know?
is, it is, yeah. Well, I'm glad you wrote the book, because there is a huge awakening going on, a huge conscious awakening going on at the present moment, and people do need to know the how. They don't always know what the signs are. All they're seeing constantly in social media what the signs should be, flash, 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 instead of, how do I know the sign in myself? It's the signs in yourself. How do you recognize them in yourself? Not the exterior, the interior. And people need something that's going to help them along the way there. And it's always important. That's the reason why, inspiration begets invitation. You were inspired to write this, even though you were prodded. It is a product of map, really, a map for people to take. How they
That's what it
choose to
is.
walk it, and where they're going is up to them.
Yeah,
You
but all I
just,
want to say is, hang on, there's a boggy
yeah,
swamp over there. If you want to
exactly.
walk through it,
Yeah, that's
you
up to
go through
you,
that boggy swamp,
right? Yeah.
But when you get to
Yes.
this bit, there's a boggy swamp, and
Right.
then there's going to be this tree,
Yeah.
and then there's going to be this thing going on over there. Now you can go there if you want to,
Yes.
But when I walked this way, that's what I saw.
Right.
But things may have changed by the time you get there, you
Exactly.
know.
And it's kind of putting, in their backpack a little toolkit
Yeah,
of how to manage something as they get to each obstacle or each
that's it.
situation.
That's it.
So
Yeah.
it is not, you must take this step and then that step.
No,
It
no,
is
no.
that along the way, these are the steps that you will face. And here are the beautiful instruments that you can use.
Yeah. Well, I took I did take a different kind of approach. There is a kind of uh, it's really me talking in the book.
Yes.
It's not an affected voice. It's not a position. It's not a positional voice. It's actually me. So quite a lot of people who have read it have said, "Oh, I feel like I've just taken this journey with you. It's like we've
Mm.
gone somewhere. I feel like I know who you are, but it's not like my story. My story isn't actually in there. But I feel like somehow
It's
we've
the
traveled
essence of
somewhere
you.
together.
But
It is,
it's the
it is, and
reflection of you. Yeah.
and I've not held back on that in
No.
any way. And really, it's like a friend walking alongside you. That's all
Yes.
that it is.
Yes. You're never
And
alone anyway, right?
yeah, that's right.
God is always with you, universe, whichever your energy is always with you. We're never alone. When we go into heart and soul, we're always there. The answer is always there. And sometimes it's in that form of a question. If we stop looking for it on the outside, we realize it's on the inside. And you've just shown them how to navigate. You've given them the compass, you've given them the map, You've told them where to watch out for things, maybe use this tool here and that tool there, but how they walk it, what experience they have from
Well,
it
it's going to be different
is
for
up
them,
to
isn't
them.
it? It's
Yes,
absolutely going to be
exactly.
different.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and
Bless you,
that's all
bless
it is.
every one of us. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just that you don't have to do it alone. The book can help you on your journey.
We're not
That's
on
the
our own.
no, we're
We're not
never.
on our own. We've never
No,
been on our own.
no.
If you go back 2,000 years, there's this guy going, "Hey, look at this."
Yeah.
You know, it's only somebody going, "Hey, I've observed this. Can you
Mm.
see this as well?" You know,
Yes.
that's all it is. And you can go
Yes.
back 4,000 years and there's
Yes.
another person doing it.
Yeah.
And you can go 20 years ago and there's somebody doing it.
Mm.
And
They're
it's
their
everywhere.
inspirers. And
Yeah.
what do inspirers do? They ignite the sight within us. They ignite the feeling within us. They don't tell us what to do with it.
No, that's right.
They just
Absolutely. Because you
ignite
know
it.
for yourself. You'll know for
Yes, you'll
yourself if
know.
that feeling is true.
Right.
You'll know for yourself.
Now, how do people get hold of the book and how do people get hold of you?
Signposts is relatively easy to get because we're deliciously distributed by Penguin Random House, who have done a beautiful job of seem to getting it into every country in the world, which is wonderful. But because I'm not famous, you may have to ask them to order it from their kind of local book warehouse. But any bookshop in the world should be able to easily access it. Of course, there's the online stuff. And then if you want to, instead of me listing a whole load of stuff off, my kind of core website is authentic living as if it was one word .life. And from there you could hub out to everything,
Excellent.
That's
Thank
it
you so
really.
much for sharing with us here today.
Oh,
The illumination.
it's an absolute pleasure to talk to you, Sarah. It's so kind of you to have me on, and it's so kind of whoever sat through this long and got to the end.
They know if they're listening to self-discovery media shows, they're going to be this long because it's all about peeling back the layers and revealing. If people want quick fixes, then go elsewhere. Here it's about really unraveling and seeing things at the core. That's the journey that we take people on. So thank you for leading them to the core of it all.
Bless you. Thank you, Sarah.
Until next time, folks, just please go and get his book, Signposts. You know that you just sometimes want to know, but how? How do I recognize the signs? And it's a prod, wink, wink, a little bit of a map, a little bit of a how-to, but you still got to do the walking. You still got to do the living and still got to ignite your own heart. Until next time, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. Please tune in to our selfdiscoverymedia.com/shows and you will see all the other genres that we have from you. Every week on Tuesday, we bring you new shows from illuminating people. If you know someone that should be interviewed, please contact us at info@selfdiscoverymedia.com. Now stay tuned for your next show.